When investigating why a person may be ill, a missing link is sometimes hormones. So what I'd like to do in this lecture is I would like to have a look at hormones. I'd like to look at how they run. I'd like to look at what throws them out. And then I'd like to finish by showing you how you can bring back the balance. But let me begin by going through some of the symptoms of a person having a hormonal imbalance. For a female, some of the symptoms may be a girl getting her periods at a very young age. Normal is 16 to 18, but you hardly ever hear of that today. A lot of girls are getting their periods at 9, 10 years of age. There is something wrong for a child to get her periods at such a young age. Another symptom of a girl having a hormonal imbalance is very heavy periods, very painful periods. Also premenstrual tension, painful breasts. Some other symptoms, a little bit more severe, might be endometriosis, cysts on the ovaries, fibroids in the uterus, cysts in the breasts, breast cancer, uterine cancer, also depression, heart disease. These are some of the symptoms of a hormonal imbalance. What about in a man? In a man, a hormonal imbalance can be exhibited by low sperm count, also inability to hold an erection, often called PD, penile dysfunction. Another symptom may be prostate problems. We didn't know what the word prostate meant 20 years ago. It's almost a household word today, especially for men in their 50s, 60s. Also, too much of the female hormone can cause a man to be effeminate, and too much of the male hormone can cause a woman to be masculine. These are some of the symptoms of a hormonal imbalance. So let us begin by looking at how the monthly cycle runs. Notice that our sex hormones are made from cholesterol. Cholesterol is a very important lipid in the human body. In this series, we're going to do a presentation on heart health where I will explore how important cholesterol is in more detail. If we don't have enough cholesterol, our body can't make the sex hormones. From cholesterol, the body makes pregnenolone, and from pregnenolone, the body makes progesterone. Progesterone is a key hormone because from progesterone, estrogen is made, from progesterone, testosterone is made, and from progesterone, the adrenal hormones are made. Basically, your fight and your flight, your stress hormones. So I'm going to present this balance or this monthly cycle like a dance, and it is like a dance. Different players come onto the stage at different times of the month. Progesterone in this dance is going to be wearing a green dress, and progesterone's nickname is happy hormone. So as you can see, this is pretty important. There's the old saying, happy wife, happy life. There are a lot of unhappy homes because of the woman having a hormonal imbalance. The other player in the dance is estrogen. And estrogen is going to be wearing a red dress, and estrogen's role in the body is that of a cell proliferator. Basically, cell proliferator means causes massive cell growth. And that is what causes the skinny young girl to develop into a beautiful, shapely woman. But if estrogen levels remain too high, then the beautiful, shapely woman can get out of shape the other way. I liken estrogen to water and fire, good slave, bad master. Of the 28-day cycle, the first week is when a woman is menstruating. So day 1 is when a woman's menstruation begins. Day 1 of the monthly cycle, estrogen levels are low, or backstage, so to speak, in the dance of the hormones. Progesterone is also backstage. But by day 7, estrogen levels are rising. And by day 11, estrogen levels are quite high. So estrogen at this stage is the star player in the dance of the hormones. Let's go to the stage where the dance is played out, which is the reproductive organs of a woman's body. This is the uterus. These are the fallopian tubes. They're the ovaries, that is the cervix, and this is the birth canal. So at this time of the month, estrogen is causing massive cell growth in the lining of the uterus, causing the blood nest to develop. Estrogen is also causing massive cell growth in the ovaries, causing egg to develop. Estrogen is also causing a form of lubricant to be released in the birth canal. By day 14, a fully developed egg bursts forth from the ovaries. The little filaments on the end of the fallopian tube pull up the ovary into the fallopian tubes, and the fallopian tubes are ever moving along like this, causing the egg to move up, up, up into the fallopian tubes further along. Where the egg bursts forth, a blister is developed, and this blister is called the corpus luteum. I've written it in green because it is the main site of progesterone production in a woman's body. Can you see the importance of a woman ovulating? Because when a woman releases the egg every month, then corpus luteum is made, and corpus luteum, being the main site of progesterone production in a woman's body, maintains her progesterone levels. Progesterone is the precursor for the other hormones, so it's very important to maintain proper progesterone levels. So with the production of corpus luteum, estrogen levels drop and progesterone levels rise. You see, there's no need for estrogen anymore. We've got our blood nest, we've got the egg, and we've got the lubricant in the birth canal. So with the rise of progesterone in the dance of the hormones, what effect does progesterone have? Progesterone has a ripening effect on the lining of the uterus, putting the finishing touches. It's like it's the plasterers and the painters. Progesterone also heightens a woman's mood at this time of the month, being the happy hormone, to the point of increasing her sexual desire at this time of the month. But progesterone has another effect, and that is on the cervix. Let me magnify the cervix to show you what's happening. This is what the cervix usually looks like. There are two lips with a mucus plug. Under the effect of progesterone, the plug goes and the lips come up a little tighter, and a special form of lubricant is released around the cervix. Now, this lubricant is designed specifically to facilitate the entry of sperm up into the uterus. So you can see that the stage is set for the entry of man. Did you know that between 200 and 500 million sperm are released with one ejaculation? That's incredible, isn't it? Let me show you why. Sometimes up to half come back out. If the sperm meet this cervix, very difficult to gain entry. If the sperm meet this cervix, when it hits the lubricant, it literally grabs the sperm and shoots it up into the uterus. And these sperm have got a long journey. They've got a long way to go. And some of them go down the wrong road. There's no road map here. And some of them go down the right road, and aha, they've found their prize, which of course is the egg. I saw a photograph at a seminar one day of 15 sperm all trying to gain entry into one egg, but only one does. Sometimes two do, and that's when the twins share the placenta. But most of the time it is one. Did you know that within a few days there is a division to the first two cells, and the DNA of a new human being is perfectly intact? There's a lot of discussion about when life begins. With that knowledge, when does life begin? It actually begins within days of conception, because that DNA has never been and never will be again. About every 7 days, there's a division to 2 more cells. Little by little, this is happening, giving the union time to keep moving down and nestle into the wall of the uterus. And of course, that's where we all began. Isn't it a miracle that any of us are here? When you consider everything that has to be in the place for the start of a new human being. Again, we're reminded of the Psalm 139, verse 14, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvellous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. Science is delving more and more into the intricacies of how the human body works. And the further they explore, the further they discover, the more it is illustrated that it's basically an impossibility for us ever to have evolved. It is true what Genesis says. I think it's Genesis 1:26 that we were created in the image of God. What happens with the hormones, with the conception of a new human being? With the conception, progesterone levels soar 200%. Isn't the comment often when a woman's pregnant, she's just blossoming? No wonder her happy hormones have soared. There is only one hormone, progesterone, but with estrogen, it's a family of estrogens. Let me show you. Estrone is called E1, and it has strong cell proliferator action. Estradiol is often referred to as E2. It also has strong cell proliferator action. Estriol is referred to as E3, and I call it the delicate estrogen. It does not have strong cell proliferator action, and it's estriol levels that rise in pregnancy. But what happens if there is no conception? If there is no conception, by day 26, progesterone levels drop. And by day 26, estrogen levels drop. And when both of these levels drop, and in the dance of the hormones basically go backstage, then the blood supply to the uterus is cut. And when it is cut, the bloodness comes away, and we are once again at day 1 of the monthly cycle. That's how it should run. Unfortunately, there aren't many cycles that look like that today. And we're going to have a look at why that is so. But before we do, let me make a comment on sperm. When sperm enters a woman's body, her immune system rises to attack because it's an alien. But when sperm goes through the prostate gland of a man, it takes on an immune suppressant property. So when woman's immune system rises to attack sperm, the immune suppressant property of sperm knocks back woman's immune system and sperm survives. Otherwise, none of us would be here. But woman's body has memory, and every time her husband enters her, her immune system rises to attack and it says, oh, it's husband, we'll just stand back. And so sperm come through. But can you imagine how dangerous it can be for a woman to have multiple partners, and how dangerous it can be in the case of homosexuality? What about a pap smear? What is a pap smear? A pap smear is a little scrape or a little nick taken out of the cervix to test for abnormal cells. Let's say a woman has a pap smear, and that night she is intimate with her husband. Her immune system was busy healing that little scrape, and in the presence of sperm, the immune system has to stand back. Let's say it happens before she goes to sleep and sperm stays there all night. Her immune system cannot go back to healing the scrape until in the morning gravity causes sperm to come away. Let's say she's a very sexually active woman, and this is happening 2 nights out of 3. 6 months later, she goes back to have another pap smear. They happen to take the scrape on the same site, and the result is abnormal cells. What caused the abnormal cells? Actually, the first pap smear that was never allowed to heal. Women should be told that after a pap smear not to allow sperm to enter for 4 weeks. Would it take 4 weeks? In a healthy woman, it'd probably take 10 days. But there are some women who go to bed too late, don't drink enough water, aren't exercising, living on fast foods, having too much coffee, too much wine. It would take 4 weeks with those women. One lady said, my husband cannot wait 4 weeks. I said, well, he needs to wear a condom so that the sperm doesn't enter until the pap smear is healed. But what is causing the imbalance? Let us make a list of what's causing the imbalance. Number 1, the contraceptive pill. 1957, the first contraceptive pill was introduced to women. 1960s, it's called the sexual revolution. Women wanted to be able to have sex without having a baby. But Men and women have, are, and will continue to pay a very high price for this so-called sexual freedom. What is the pill? How does it affect a woman? The pharmaceutical companies grow acres and acres of Mexican wild yam. Mexican wild yam contains a plant chemical called diosgenin. In a laboratory, diosgenin can be converted to progesterone. Now, the pharmaceutical companies cannot patent progesterone. They can only patent something new, something they create. So they add a few more atoms to one area and come up with a synthetic estrogen. They add a few more atoms in another area and come up with a synthetic progesterone. These are the synthetic hormones that are in the pill. And when a woman takes them, they are fed into the biochemical pathway that her body uses to make the hormones. But it causes a disruption and the body says, what's happening? Must be pregnant. So the body stops releasing the egg, and that's why the woman doesn't fall pregnant. For 3 weeks she takes the pill, and for 1 week she takes a sugar pill. And when she takes the sugar pill, the body quickly thinks, oh, mustn't be pregnant now, and so there's a token bleed. And then a week later, the pill starts again. Oh, must be pregnant. Can you see the disruption it's causing? But what I want to show you what's happening is week after month after month on the pill. So progesterone, the key hormone, estrogen down here. Month after month on the pill. No ovulation, no corpus luteum. Where's progesterone going? It's dropping. Month after month with the synthetic estrogen going in. Where's estrogen going now? We now have a problem, sadly too common today, called estrogen dominance and progesterone deficiency. Good slave, bad master is now the master. And what does the cycle look like now? Estrogen is up here. Estrogen with its cell proliferator action, causing fibroids to develop in the uterus, causing cysts to develop on the ovaries, causing lumps to develop in the breasts to the point of causing breast cancer. The Cancer Foundation in Australia have issued a warning. Estrogen is a known human carcinogen. Where's progesterone? Well, it's down here. And how does the woman feel the week before her periods? Watch out, she'll bite your head off. I said to one lady, do you get premenstrual tension? She said, no, I just hate my husband for a week every month. She's got it. How many women and men think it's normal? I've got some very good news today. It's not normal. It's not normal. And I'm going to show you how to get the balance back. As one woman said, thank you for giving me my daughter back. When her daughter turned 13, she said, horns grew. She was able to bring back the balance and the horns went in. Isn't that good news? The body's designed to heal itself, and it will heal itself if you give it the right conditions. So these are the problems, some of the problems that the pill is causing. Who was introduced to the pill? The baby boomers. How are the baby boomers now? How old are they now? 50s, 60s. Going through menopause. How are they faring? Terrible. Hot flushes. You see, estrogen is a capillary dilator. It causes the blood to rush to the skin, and the woman's gets hot, and the husband knows it because in the middle of the night all the bedclothes are thrown off, and then soon they're pulled back on again. What is also happening as they're going through menopause with this disruption? Weight gain. So many women have this extra weight in their torso. So many women have said to me, I go on so many diets and I cannot lose this extra weight from around my torso. It's almost an impossibility if estrogen levels remain high because of its cell proliferator action. The woman has no desire for sex. And when she does have sex, it's very painful because the cells lining her birth canal are getting very thin and there is no lubricant. And she's depressed with not enough progesterone. She goes to the doctor, he gives her hormone replacement therapy. More synthetic hormones. Body thinks it's pregnant again, so the flushes stop, and the woman's very happy. One woman said, I'm a CEO of a big company. She said, I'm in the middle of meetings. All of a sudden, I'm getting hot flushes. I'm dripping perspiration. I've got a fan. She said, I can barely function. She said, I started taking HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Oh, she said, it was wonderful. I no more had these flushes. But the hormone replacement therapy, that's all it does, stop the flushes. Body thinks must be pregnant. So instead of putting the energies to the skin, it goes into the breasts, into the uterus. 6 years later, the lady goes to the doctor with a lump in her breast. She has breast cancer. That's all HRT does, is stop the flushes. It doesn't do anything about the weight gain, doesn't do anything about the desire or the discomfort with sex, doesn't do anything about the mood. So the doctor gives her antidepressants. More drugs. Drugs never cure disease. They just change the form and location of the disease. The doctor assesses this woman. It's confirmed she has breast cancer. He takes her off HRT immediately. Why? He knows. He knows it can cause breast cancer. So you say to the doctor, why do you do that? He said, this is his answer. He said she was suffering and it brought her relief. That is true. And not every woman will get breast cancer. That is true. I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in playing Russian roulette with my health, with my life. Unfortunately, in medicine, they're only taught that there's two options. You suffer or you take the drug with its possible side effects. I will show you of another option in this lecture. What also is causing the imbalance is meat. In Australia today, chickens, well, they used to be given growth stimulants, but not anymore. So what they do now is they genetically modify the chicken to produce more estrogen. No matter whether it's a growth stimulant or it's been genetically modified, if the human being eats that chicken, they are getting the growth stimulants. We had a young man do our program, and his mate had a brother, and his mate was 6'6" and the brother was 6'4", and their father owned a chook farm. Well, you call it a chicken farm. So if their father owned the chicken farm, what do you think they're eating every single day? Chicken. And the mother was 5'2.5" and the father was 5'10". Where did these 6'6" and 6'4" sons come from? It's the growth stimulants in the chicken. You see, this is causing chickens to be fully developed at the age of 5 weeks. We had a girl do our program who'd worked in the farms where they grow the chickens. She said sometimes they escape and they grow this high and they find them dead in the bush with their legs broken. You see, they get them to market before they grow any more. What about fish? Well, if you've got 80% of women on pill or HRT, and the sewage is taken out to the sea, the fish are feeding on the sewage. They're finding female fish with male tendencies, male fish with female tendencies. What about red meat? It's against the law in Australia to give cattle growth stimulants, but we had a cattle farmer's wife do our program. She said the pharmaceutical companies are always knocking on our door, pushing the growth stimulant. She said we don't do it, but many do. It used to be that you could stop the growth stimulant 5 months before market and it wasn't picked up in the blood test. Today it's 5 days before market and it's not picked up in the blood test. You see, if it's in the meat, it's in the product. But I have had some people who've come to me for help, never been on the pill, mother's never been on the pill, they're vegetarians. There's more. And that is plastics. When I was a little girl and a plastic bottle was left in the sun, it would go brittle and crack. They don't go brittle and crack anymore. That's because they contain nonylphenol. And nonylphenol is a chemical that's put in plastic to keep it soft. The molecular structure of estrogen contains a phenyl ring, and that phenyl ring is the key that unlocks the door to get into the estrogen receptor site. So can you see that this phenyl in the plastic gets into the estrogen receptor sites? Also bisphenyl A, often called BPA. Bisphenyl A is often found lining tins. So plastics can cause a disruption in the hormonal imbalance because they're estrogen mimickers. Often they're called xenoestrogens. You may have heard of that. What can also produce xenoestrogens is herbicides, insecticides, pesticides, also chemicals. A lot of chemicals break down to estrogen mimickers. So you can see someone can never have been on the pill and be a vegetarian and still have a hormonal imbalance because of their exposure to these things. Let me show you the 3 different estrogens. And when you see the 3 different estrogens, you can see the difference. You can see the effect that they're having on the body. So I'm going to draw 3 cells, and I'm going to draw 3 estrogen receptor sites. So estrogen receptor sites on the 3 cells. So this one here is going to be the xenoestrogen, and xenoestrogens are 20,000 times stronger than human estrogens. So they're big. So they're about like this. They're very big. Your human estrogen is 20,000 times stronger than plant. So how big is the human estrogen? It just sits in, perfectly sits in. Well, what about plant? Plant is a tiny little slip of a thing that just lines the receptor site. So looking at this equation, you can see that the xenoestrogens are 400,000 times stronger than the plant estrogens. Psalm 104 verse 14, the Bible says God gave herbs for the service of man. Let me show you how they work. This one here has got the key, it's got the phenyl ring, and it just gets in whether we need it or not. Plant comes to the receptor site and knocks. Do you need me? Cell says, we've got too much. And so the plant estrogen just sits at the door. And the good news of that is it can protect that cell from the xenoestrogen. So can you see the plant estrogens can play a protective role? But if they knock and the cell says, we need you, then it will come in. You see how the Bible puts it beautifully in the King James. God gave herbs for the service of man. They're to serve you. And when you are serving someone, you actually just give them what they need, don't you? The big difference with the xeno. What plants are high in the plant estrogens? Soy and red clover. You may have heard of the drug tamoxifen. Women who've had breast cancer are often put on tamoxifen. And tamoxifen blocks the estrogen receptor site, because they acknowledge that it's high estrogen that's feeding cancer. But tamoxifen has side effects as well. Women are told they should be on it for 5 years. Red clover will do the same thing. Red clover is the plant estrogens that will sit at the door, and red clover is a very, very safe herb. What about soy? Let me show you the soybean that's grown in America today. It's called Roundup Ready because it's been genetically modified to resist Roundup. And before harvest, the field is sprayed with Roundup 5 times. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 doses of Roundup. That is a dangerous soybean. But it's not dangerous because of the natural plant estrogens. It's dangerous because of the xenoestrogens it contains. So problem number 1, it's been genetically modified. Problem number 2, it is very high in the xenoestrogens. A friend of mine did a thesis on soy, And everyone says to her, tell us the story of soy. She said, very easy. God made it good, man mucked it up. End of story. It's a pity to throw the soybean out because it is very high in anti-cancer properties, and it has the natural plant estrogens that balance the estrogen levels in the body, that protect the cell against the harmful estrogens. So if someone says to me, isn't soy bad? My response to that is, what soy are you talking about? If you can get organically grown, non-GMO soy, that is the soy that can protect the cell, and that is the soy that will not cause a problem. So as you can see by my illustration, it's actually not the soybean, it's what they've done to the soybean. So how can we bring back the balance? Let's make a list. Number 1, eliminate. If you don't turn the tap off, you're still going to be mopping up in the other corner. Eliminate the pill. Eliminate HRT. So how are we going to stop having babies turning up all the time? There are 3 signs that a woman's body will give her that she is ovulating. Sex is 2-part, contraception should be 2-part. The woman's role, I believe, is to know when she's ovulating so she can say to her husband, I am safe or I am not safe. His role is to wear a condom or to master the art of withdrawal in that week when she is not safe. So let me show you the 3 signs. One sign is her temperature changes. A woman should take her temperature before she gets out of bed every morning, and she will find that it will do this. It'll drop and go up onto a higher plane. Now, when her temperature drops and goes up onto a higher plane, that is an indicator that she has begun to ovulate. And most women will ovulate around day 14 of the cycle. Taking the temperature allows a woman to define it. It might be day 13, it might be day 15. The second change that she will observe is her vaginal mucus changes. So when estrogen levels are high, it's more thick and white colour. When progesterone levels are high, it's a lot stringier and clear. Now, at first, a woman has nothing to compare it with. And so I suggest she make a chart, and every single day she test it and then monitor it. The third sign is that the cervix changes. So that's as simple as testing the cervix every day and monitoring it. And as the months go by, she will start to see the pattern. HRT, the list that I give you here will show how a woman can balance her hormones and reduce the flushes without having to go to the dangerous drugs. Eliminate meat and its products. If people say to me, but I love meat, I say, well, it's got to be a very small part and it must be organic. But myself, I choose to be a vegetarian. Plastic, I think it's impossible to eliminate plastic. It's very handy. But be mindful of your exposure. Heating plastic's one of the worst. So putting hot soup into a plastic takeaway container, leaving plastic drink bottles in the car. You can get plastic bottles that are BPA free. They're quite safe. So just be mindful of your plastic exposure. Be mindful of the fabric that is touching your skin. There are 3 fabrics that are basically made out of plastic: polyester, acrylic and nylon. So try and buy especially the clothes that are touching your torso, your underwear. Try and go for your cottons, your silks, your bamboo. There's lots of fabrics today. Some are made out of wood pulp, viscose and tencel and rayon, and also modal. They are all made out of wood pulp. Go organic as much as possible. Try and grow your own. Get the chemicals out of your home. Start cleaning with sodium bicarbonate and vinegar and scrubbing brushes. And try and again go organic. So that's how you can eliminate. Number 2, the liver has the ability to detoxify us from environmental poisons. And it'll take the estrogen, particularly what we're talking about now, is down one of 2 pathways. If it goes down the hydroxy 2 pathway, it basically eliminates it out of the body. If it goes down the hydroxy 16 pathway, it comes back in 100 times worse. So we don't want that one. I'm going to explain it as highway 2 and highway 16. So to stimulate highway 2, vitamin B, 6, B9 and B12. The highest B vitamins source in the food would be your raw nuts and seeds. But if someone's got a hormonal imbalance, they initially may need to take a supplement. Also the cabbage family. The cabbage family contain a plant chemical called indoles, and indoles stimulate highway 2 and discourage highway 16. Also flaxseed. Flaxseed contains lignans, and these lignans, like the indoles, encourage highway 2 and discourage highway 16. And also licorice, the herb licorice. If you have high blood pressure, forget the licorice because it can pep the blood pressure up a little bit more. So number 1 is turning the tap off. Number 2 is taking these things to stimulate the liver to release the excess estrogen. And number 3 is a cream called the Anna's Wild Yam Cream. And the Anna's Wild Yam Cream contains diosgenin. Now this is the plant chemical found in the wild yam. So the Anna's Wild Yam Cream, I think number 1 ingredient is the yam cream and number 2 ingredient is chase tree or Vitex, and that also helps with the imbalance. When you apply the cream to the skin, the diosgenin is taken up by the fat cells and it stimulates the pathway that your body uses to make more progesterone. And when you stimulate progesterone, you automatically balance the estrogen, testosterone, and adrenal levels. You see, the body can heal itself and the body can balance itself. It just needs the right conditions. So who would apply the Anna's Wild Yam Cream? Well, when I was lecturing in one area a few years ago, they brought this little 9-year-old girl to me. She had her periods at 9. She developed breasts at 8. I suggested the Anna's Wild Yam Cream because that's definitely an imbalance. I meant a 92-year-old woman who was on the Anna's Wild Yam Cream for her osteoporosis. You see, progesterone boosts bone-building cells. I have seen women come off their antidepressants by going on the Anna's Wild Yam Cream, boosting progesterone, happy hormone, implementing what I have drawn up here as the 8 laws of health, and little by little by little they're able to get off their antidepressants. So any symptoms of a hormonal imbalance can be remedied by the Anna's Wild Yam Cream. The dose is just a little finger dip up to the first knuckle, and apply it to the inside of the arms 1 time, the chest another time, the abdomen another time, inside of thighs another time. And this is applied every morning and every night for 3 weeks. Now, if a woman's still menstruating, she applies it for the 3 weeks that she is not menstruating. So she stops when the periods begin and she resumes maybe a day or 2 after her periods have stopped. If a woman is not menstruating anymore, she just chooses 1 week of the month where she doesn't apply the cream. Some women find it easier to eliminate the first week of the month or the last week of the month. So that is how it is applied. High estrogen opposes thyroid function. And so many women who have a thyroid problem, it can be traced back to the pill. Many women who have depression, it can be traced back to the pill. One lady said, no, it's been 30 years since I was on the pill. I said, that's right, but it threw the balance out then, and the balance is still out. I just explained to you what some of the problems the baby boomers are going through. How old are the baby boomers' daughter? Well, the daughters and the sons are in their 30s and 40s now. This is the generation where couples aren't able to have children. Maybe it's the man with a low sperm count or inability to hold an erection. Maybe it's the woman who has this imbalance and is unable to produce the egg every month. Do you know there are many babies called Anna, couples who were unable to have children, who went on this program, and they're so grateful that they have their little baby. Their baby is called Anna. How long would a woman need to be on it for? A woman may be on it for at least a year. One lady said, I tried this and it didn't work. I said, how long were you on it for? She said, 2 months. Let me show you what's happening after 2 months. So we've got the imbalance, the estrogen dominance, the progesterone deficiency. After 2 months, we're about here. We need to be here. You see, sometimes it's 20 years out of balance. The good news is it won't take 20 years to get back into the balance, but it may take 1 year, maybe 2. One lady went on the cream and all her hot flushes stopped. After a year, she stopped the cream. The flushes came back. What's her body saying to her? A little bit more, please. She went on it for another 6 months and then she stopped and the flushes did not return. So there's a little bit of fine-tuning. A little bit of fine-tuning as the body gets back into balance. What I love about this cream is it's working with the processes in the body that the body uses to bring back the balance. There is something else that is becoming very popular today, and it was developed in the Chinese dynasty. It's called yoni stones. Now, yoni stones are made out of nephrite jade. And nephrite jade is the best thing for these stones to be made out of because it's a very dense stone, and you will see why. It was developed in the Chinese dynasty so that the young girls could get themselves toned for the emperor. But women are finding today that they are bringing tone back into their vagina. Now, this is what some women have told me, that the tender cells that are lining the vagina, making it very difficult to have sex, are no longer tender. And because it's strengthening the muscles around this area, the lubricant returns. Let me show you what happens. So usually a woman will order a set of 3, and this may be the first one, and this may be the second one, and this may be the third size. And there are little holes here that something like dental floss can be put in. And this yoni stone, so the largest one is inserted first, and that would sit just against the cervix like that. And a woman will begin by wearing it for 1 hour a day. A woman will insert it and hardly know it is there. And then for a whole week, she would wear it for 1 hour a day. And then the second week, she might wear it for 2 hours a day. The third week, 3 hours a day, till she builds up to 5 or 6 hours. And she might wear it 5 or 6 hours a day for a few months before she goes to the second stone. Sometimes these yoni stones are called kidney stones because of their ability to also strengthen the bladder and strengthen the kidney. I have known women who have conquered their incontinence by wearing the yoni stones, which is why they're called kidney stones. So once a woman's pelvic girdle, because it's all about the pelvic girdle. The pelvic girdle starts at the belly button and it goes through the legs to the coccyx. And many women, and men too, lose pelvic girdle strength. And this is so common today that unfortunately you'll see people get colon or bowel prolapse, uterine and vaginal prolapse, also bladder prolapse, because they've lost tone in their pelvic girdle. Now these yoni stones, because of the muscles having to hold that, it starts to strengthen the muscles. Let me give you some feedback that I've been getting. One woman, almost 40, she gave birth to twins, and ever since the birth of her twins, every time she laughs, every time she coughs, every time she has any activity like that, she's a little bit incontinent. And she could never go on a trampoline or she'd be a little incontinent. And she started to wear the yoni stones, and I think she told me after 3 months she could cough and laugh and no more incontinence, which is an illustration of why they're often called kidney stones. It's just a device to strengthen those muscles, to strengthen the pelvic girdle. She told me too that a few years ago she fell on her coccyx. With chiropractic work she was able to manage it, but she always had a dull pain. 3 months after wearing the yoni stone, she had no more pain in her lower back. Another woman in her 50s, she said to me, I thought my sex life was over. It was just so painful and no lubricant. She said 5 months after wearing the yoni stones, and of course after 5 months she's still on the larger one, she said, I have no more pain. And she said it's been a wonderful surprise to my husband and I that the lubricant has returned. It appears once the muscles get strong, then the glands that are releasing the lubricant basically are revived. Can you see why they're becoming popular? And you can put yoni stones. Yoni is European for vagina. You can put yoni stones in. You will find some cheaper brands, but the best are the nephrite jade because it's a very dense stone. And as you can imagine, it needs to be dense so that there's no little crevices where microbes might try and develop in that warm environment. What I'm also finding is that men are being helped with the Anna's Wild Yam Cream. Anna's Wild Yam Cream also make a man one now. And this is some of the feedback I'm getting. One man said, excuse the French, but this cream has just put lead in my pencil. In other words, this man who's in his late 50s, he said, I'm now able to perform sexually. So it's helping the penile dysfunction. Another man, he had prostate cancer and he was taking a 3-monthly injection to get his testosterone levels down. So he made a decision to stop the 3-monthly injection because he was developing breasts in his late 60s and getting hot flushes from the injection. So what he did, and this is number 4 on balancing the hormones, it's the 8 laws of health. So what this man did is he made sure that he'd exercised every day, getting fresh air, had some sunshine every day. He made a decision to stop eating sugar and to stop coffee. He also started to go to bed early. He started to eat a plant-based diet. He started to drink more water. He started to read his Bible. His wife emailed me 10 months later. She said, the breasts have gone down, the flushes have stopped, and his testosterones are the best they have been for years. What an amazing body we live in, with an incredible ability to heal itself if you give it the right conditions. That's why you're the doctor. If it works, do it. If it's not working, be patient. In fact, in page 127 of the Ministry of Healing, she says, nature's process of healing and upbuilding is gradual, and to the impatient it seems slow. But in the end, it will be found that nature untrammeled does her work wisely and well. And also in Galatians 6 verse 9, let us not be weary in well-doing, because in due season we will reap if we faint not. And then in Hebrews 10:35 it says, cast not away therefore thy confidence, in the which is great recompense of reward, for ye have need of patience, in that after you have done the will of God, you might receive the promise. God wants us to be healed. God wants us to get the most out of our bodies, and unfortunately many aren't. And as I'm sure you have seen by my illustration in this lecture, sometimes the imbalance of the hormone is the missing link. And how nice to know that when we give the body the right conditions, it will start to balance. So this herb that God put in the wild yam, you can buy now in a cream to apply it to your skin, and the yoni stones that were developed in the Chinese dynasty to help with the young women getting themselves toned for the emperor are now being used to bring strength, balance and enjoyment back into many couples' married life.